Hi, friends. This is Adam Shoemaker, Rector here at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church in Charleston, back for another edition of Rector's Corner. And this fall, we've been interviewing new people on our diocesan staff. Today, we don't have somebody who is new to the staff, but somebody who has taken on a new role in Andrea McKellar, who is now our canon for finance and administration, but was our diocesan ministry developer, and we're going to talk a little bit about that transition. Thank you so very much, Andrea, for making the time to be with me today. I wonder if you could begin by saying how long you have been a part of our diocesan staff at this point and how your role on the staff has evolved.
Thanks, Adam. Well, this is my second time on Rector's Corner, so I'm excited to be back for a new reason. I've been on staff for 9 years. I started when I realized Meredith was 1 when I started at the diocese, so it's been a long time. So I started as an administrative assistant that I was just 10 hours a week helping answer some phones. And then I asked if I could apply for a grant to do some additional work for the diocese that would pay the salary for me to be an additional 10 hours. So I applied for a Roan Ridge grant from the Episcopal Church to do a Christian formation program. And we received that grant. So I was able to go to 20 hours. That was in 2015. And so I started doing Christian formation and youth for the diocese as well. When that grant was up, I talked with Bishop von Rosenberg and said, I've really enjoyed what I've been doing. What else can I do? And so that's when I transitioned into the ministry developer role. We talked about that. So that was Christian formation, youth, a lot of the event planning things that were happening at the diocese. And I became our transition officer, which is when I was assisting churches that were looking for clergy, as St. Stephen's was when we went through the search for rector and called Adam. And so, I'd been here for 8 years when we called Bishop Ruth. And so she and I sat down and she said, write a perfect job description. But we were shuffling things on staff and it gave some opportunity and there wasn't any promise that perfect job description would be able to be used, but it was a great time for me. I worked with a coach, an Episcopal priest named Callie Swanland, and did some really good discernment on where I was in my ministry life and what I wanted to be doing and priorities with family. And so I went back to the bishop and said I wanted to kind of move into this new role, the canon for finance and administration, thinking it would have some more regular hours. So I'd have some family time and some just some new challenges. I had done business work. My college major was actually in business marketing, and I'd run a stationery store with my mother that we owned for a number of years, and I'd worked in hospitality. So I'd had some background in business and finance stuff, and I wanted to use those skills again. And this was a great way to kind of meld my love for the diocese and ministry with some of my skill set.
And so what are your responsibilities now as our canon for finance and administration?
Yeah, so of the day-to-day finance stuff, so it's a lot of, I write all the checks that for things we owe. I keep track of our bank account. I run payroll, keep track of our investments. I work with a bunch of our different committees. So we have a finance committee of the diocese that reports to diocesan council. So I work with both of those groups. I have some work with standing committee when there's things that fall into their realm to update them on. And I work very closely with our trustees and they have their own committees, such as the investment committee that I work with. And then on the administration side, our main benefits coordinator is Cecilia Eaton still, who's executive assistant to the bishop. So with insurance questions and things go to her, but I'm helping support her in that role, as well as do some of our logistical planning for events and things because of some of my background in that area. So for example, diocesan convention, I was still doing hotels and food and the bus and registration, while the planning that involves the theme and all that, it was Ryan Curry. So we've been able to share those responsibilities in a really wonderful way.
Well, and Andrea, the time you've been on our diocesan staff, there's been a lot of change and flux. And so you have a unique vantage point. And I wonder if you could just reflect on how you have seen our diocese evolve while you have been serving on staff.
Yeah. So it's been so interesting because at the beginning, we seemed so small, but we were small but mighty. I'd say we did a lot with our small staff. I was always very impressed with what we could do, but it's been really wonderful to see us grow into being a diocese, that we aren't, while we are shaped by what we've been through, we're not defined by it. Like we really are here to do, we're defined by our ministry for Jesus Christ, like that we are now centered on that. And that's been really wonderful to see how we've been able to move forward, especially with some of the justice work that Bishop Ruth has focused us on. We've just been able to do so much more to network amongst each other, with other dioceses, with the Episcopal Church. And just the staff wise, we were between, let's see, when I came on, we had with the bishop, 4 20-hour employees and me as a 10-hour employee. And now we have 5 full-time employees, and Molly and I are still part-time. So it's just been great to see how that's grown and how much more we can do, the capacity we have with that, the collaboration that we can have. But, I still miss some of those days at the beginning that I felt like in some ways we could be more creative when we were at the beginning. If you don't have money and resources, you make do, and some really beautiful Holy Spirit works happen there. And I see the Holy Spirit working still in us in many different ways and exciting ways. But it is different. So there is good and bad.
Yeah, sometimes in the church we can get tied to our bureaucracy and our things, our stuff, and that can sometimes hinder us from creativity in ministry. And so I'm sure you've seen the gifts that can come from being more nimble in the past several years. But it is a joy to see our diocese continue to evolve. And one of the ways that we are continuing to evolve at present is welcoming back returning congregations. And I know that in your position with our diocese, you are interfacing with them regularly. And I wonder if you could say a little bit about how your role is related to those congregations.
Yeah, so it was funny when I moved into this role, one of my fears was, because I really enjoy interacting with people in the diocese. So I was worried because this is more back of a house position that I wouldn't have as much interaction. But with the returning congregations, it's actually turned into that it has been able to show me how finance is still ministry in many beautiful ways. So I am assisting congregations as they come back with a lot of logistical support. So things as opening bank accounts, getting utilities lined up, paying day-to-day bills, figuring out financial systems. Almost all the churches that returned have schools, which has added a large layer of complexity. And so it's been really lovely to be able to support them as they come back, especially I had been a member of one of the churches that had left, so had been in that we need to find a space to meet, we need to figure out how to find prayer books. And I feel like those skills have been really helpful in the returning, that I've been able to understand the positives and the loss of the people you were worshiping with in the pew. Some of our churches, like St. Bartholomew's, most of the people had never left. There was not a parallel congregation like some of ours had, like Christ Church Mount Pleasant had East Cooper Episcopal Church. They were still worshiping in the pews as Episcopalians. They felt they were Episcopalians. They were still using the Book of Common Prayer there. So they just had the loss that many of us had in 2012. They're experiencing it now. And so I feel like I'm able to have a unique way to pastor to them in that, knowing what that felt like. having been in that situation. So we're doing a lot of logistical support. I'm doing a lot of the bookkeeping for those congregations as we bring them back in. So it's great. We have another St. James Island. By the time this comes out, it will have come out, already come back, but preparing this Sunday to be there for another congregation returning. And they're joyful days. Almost all of the churches have sung the church's one foundation on their first Sunday back. And one of the verses in that talks about schisms rent asunder. But it's such a beautiful hymn about building up the kingdom, and that, yes, there are trials and tribulations along the way, but we are working towards that. And I've cried every single time we've sung it. But it's a good reminder of where we've been and where we're going.
I love that hymn. I love that hymn and everything that it symbolizes. Well, you've talked a little bit, Andrea, about how you are interacting with our returning congregations. I wonder how others in the diocese might have an opportunity to experience you. Those who were at diocesan conventions certainly saw you running around like other members of the staff, but are there ways, practical ways that people in the diocese will be able to regularly interact with you as canon for finance and administration?
Yeah, that is one time that there are going to be less opportunities for that. I'm always here to help answer questions. I'll be working especially with our congregational treasurers. Any of our committee, if those that serve on different committees, I'll be liaising on that. But really just things like diocesan convention, I'll still be doing a lot of the logistics for our events. So I'll be able to see a lot of people there that way. But it is a little bit different, and that was hard for me. That's one of the sad parts about this, is that it's not regular being in all the other churches. But finding ways to do that will be important to me, because I do love being out in our diocese.
Well, and I wonder, finally, Andrea, how we in the diocese can be supportive of your role on our diocesan staff.
Oh, that's great. So the best way is actually to give to your own church. And I know that's during stewardship season, but all of our churches support the work that we do in the diocese. And so the best thing you can do is give a pledge to your church, let them know that you're supporting them. And so the churches know how much they can do to support our diocese. So giving is a wonderful thing. I was blessed to be raised in a family that made giving very important in time and treasure. We were always that family that showed up for the work days and stayed after to help clean up tables. And we were not always ones that could give huge financially. And so it was great to show that we gave what we could, and we gave in time as well. So I think that giving to our churches and strong churches help have a strong diocese.
Well, that makes this rector very happy to hear you say that. And I do think making a financial commitment through a pledge is a way to deepen one's involvement in the life of the church. We are recording this. It will not come out on this day, but we're recording this on what has become known as Giving Tuesday. And certainly those listening in, whether you are part of St. Stephen's or another part of our diocese, please do consider making a commitment to support the institution in our diocese that you are a part of. Andrea, are you the longest serving member of our diocesan staff now?
I think I need 2 more weeks, because Lauren had started the year before I did. So in 2 weeks, I'm the longest currently serving, but.
Well, Andrea, thank you so very much for your faithfulness and all your good work on behalf of our diocese during a critical time of change and transition. Very grateful to you for continuing to work to support the work of the wider church. And thank you those who have taken the time to listen into this conversation. I'll be back for another edition of Rector's Corner next month. In the meantime, friends, be safe, be well, and you keep the faith.